Our next speaker is our own KU, Antonio Orozco, who has served as CEO and CFO of major microfinancing banks in Mexico. He also sits on the board of directors of various banks, was a CFO of the most prestigious hospital in Mexico. And so we're very fortunate to have him here and to share his experience, his Mexican experience with us.
Hi, how are you? Um, First of all, thanks to the organizers of this event for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Okay, so let's get into it. But before we start, I would like to point out two things. First, in Mexico, we tend to confuse microfinance with microcredit, when microfinance is a broad spectrum, it has a broader spectrum of financial services. And second, what happens when financial inclusion goes wrong, when it takes a turn for the worst? That it is what has happened in Mexico now. So that being said, okay, let's review some numbers. First, Mexico has a 131 million population, but of that population, almost half lives in poverty. So that's a big number. And those numbers, instead of decreasing in the previous years, have increased. And even though we now have a very big financial system, still there are 25 million people who are financially excluded. They have never had insurance, they have never had a credit, they have never had a savings account, nothing. So almost a fifth of the population is financially excluded. Right now, we have 46 banks, most of them international banks. The biggest ones are the BBVA from Spain, Santander being the second biggest, and the third one, Citi, Banamex. We have 37 sociedades financieras populares that are non-bank banks that are regulated. They can provide any kind of financial services that the banks do, except mutual funds and check accounts. We have 154 financial cooperatives that are also regulated and can provide the same financial services that Sofipos do. We have around 3,000 microfinance institutions, but I should say there are microcredit institutions. They are not microfinance. 775 fintechs, most of them not regulated again, and other kind of institutions like insurance companies and other things. So the traditional financial ecosystem is formed by those others and the banks. We have the microfinance ecosystem composed by the Sofipos and SOCAPs that provide microcredit and microinsurance, micro savings, remittances, payment services, everything. And then we have the microcredit ecosystem with the microfinance and the fintechs. So in Mexico, we have 143 million of savings accounts. Most people that are in the banking system have more than one account and in more than one bank. We have 65, well, it's only almost 66 millions of credits. We have 20 million of users of digital services. This number has increased a lot in the last years, but still we have 25 million of people who are financially excluded. So what are the perspectives and challenges that we see? Well, First, for the people at the base of the pyramid, 50% of the people will die poor. They are living in poverty and they will die in poverty. The government programs are not helping. The NGOs that we have already are not helping. So it is a fact that 50% of the people who live in poverty right now will die in poverty. And this is not me saying it. This is according to the Organization of Economic Cooperation Development. The question is how to provide for integral services, not just microcredit, but micro savings, micro insurance, and all other kind of services. How can your NGOs or other NGOs or other actors help to achieve this goal in Mexico? This takes us to a bias. There is no interest in changing this. There are political reasons, there are economic reasons, and we can keep going with a lot of reasons, but there is no real interest in changing this. And the great challenge is how we foster development for these people. We have another subject that is financial literacy is not improving. In 2015, the Standard & Poor's make the financial literacy survey. In Mexico, only 32% of the people are financial literates. But this is biased. Why? Because that survey was taken in the urban areas. If we go to the rural areas, the financial literacy is even lower. Why? Because we have a lot of people who are financial and functional illiterate. We still have a lot of people who speak indigenous language like Otomi, Nahuatl, that they don't speak Spanish, and still they are acquiring microcredits without knowing what they are getting into. Now, and then we have technology. That's why we are here. Well, we are having more and more online services. I brought several examples, like Quesky. If you go to their let me put it is in English. They charge an interest rate of 1.21% per day. This is their homepage. A lot of people say, oh yeah, 1.21%. That's great. Yeah, per day. So remember that people who are acquiring, signing for microcredits are financial illiterate. They are functional illiterate. They may know how to speak, they may know how to read, but they don't understand what they're reading. So 1.21% per day. And then we have others like Moneyman, where you can really apply for a microcredit very quickly, but finding the interest rate is not easy. You have to go all the way to the bottom, and then you have the CAT, that is the Mexican equivalent of the APR, and then you have an APR of 606%. So let that sink in, 606%. And then we have another one, Castro. Where is it? Okay, here. The interest rate on the loans is at least 30%, and the maximum is no more than 365%. But this is only the simple interest rate. If you compound it, it's way higher. And I can keep going. We had fintechs that charge more than 1,000%. They can go up to 4,000% per year. So we really have a problem. Also, we have a 131 population in Mexico, but we have almost 140 cell phones in Mexico. 93, I think, are smartphones. So we still have a lot of people who does not have we still have a lot of people who had analogic phones. So the more we go into fintechs and technological financial services, the more people we will be left behind. So, and also, even the people who have smartphones in Mexico, you can charge your line for 10 pesos, 50 cents. So they don't navigate it. They don't use to navigate. So even the people who has smartphones, a lot of them will be left behind with this. Now, we have another problem. The image of the microfinance institution. There will be less and less funding, not just for the microfinance institution, but also for the non-bank banks that are regulated. Why? Because these three guys, Alpha Credit, Crédito Real, and Onifin, the three biggest shadow banks in Mexico who went bankrupt last year. Alpha Credit is owing like 700 millions to the bonds holders. Crédito Real, it's like 2.5 billion to the bond holders. And Unifin is like 5 billion to the bond holders. So they're really scared to fund even regulated institutions because of these guys. The first two went bankrupt. The third one just exit Chapter 11. So yeah. So what's the challenge for the microfinance institutions? Well, the transition to regulated institutions, so they can start giving savings account services, so they can also fund their operations. And the competition. There is no real impact in the interest rates. You know, classical economic theory would say that the more competitors you have, the lower the prices will be. Well, that's not happening in Mexico. The number of competitors is going up, 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 and the interest rates are not going down. The biggest microcredit institution in Mexico, Banco Compartamos, 2 years ago was lending their clients to was giving credit with an interest rate of 79% per year, and now they're lending at 106. So classical economic theory breaks down here. And there will be more closures also because of Alpha Credit, Crédito Real, and Unifin. So in conclusion, the microcredit industry will continue to be a great business, sadly, for a lot of people. The microfinance industry will continue to grow slowly due to regulatory burden and cost. Guess who gets more regulatory cost? The institutions who are giving other services than credit. The institutions who are trying to improve people's lives, well, they get the more regulatory burden, while the ones that are just giving credit, they have a free pass to charge whatever they want. And no real development for the people at the base of the pyramid in the foreseeable future if things stay this way. So what happens when financial inclusion takes a turn for the worse? This what we're seeing in Mexico right now.